Welcome back to Reddit Whispers. I'm going to tell you a story that still feels like an open wound, a tale of love, trust, and a betrayal so profound it has reshaped my understanding of human connection. It's a story about a man I loved, a man I thought I knew, and the hidden life he was living all along. It began like many modern romances, online, a spark in the digital ether that grew into what I believed was a real and tangible love. He was in the military, working under a contract that had him stationed a few states away. The distance was a challenge from the start, but his words bridged the miles. He had a way of making me feel seen, heard, and cherished, even through a screen. Our conversations were deep and meaningful, weaving a tapestry of shared dreams and vulnerabilities. He spoke of a future, a life together once his contract was up. He painted a picture of a quiet home, a shared life, a partnership built on the foundation of honesty and mutual respect we were so carefully constructing. I fell for it all. I fell for him, completely and utterly. Last summer, however, the familiar rhythm of our communication began to falter. The daily calls became less frequent, the good morning texts started to arrive closer to noon, and the easy intimacy we shared felt strained. He became distant, his explanations for his unavailability vague and unsatisfying. He mentioned stress from work, the pressures of his military duties, but there was an undercurrent of something more, something he wasn't telling me. Then came the news that he was moving to Arizona. It was sudden, and the reasoning he gave felt flimsy, something about a new opportunity within his contract, a better position. He framed it as a step towards our future, a necessary sacrifice for a greater reward down the line. We would have to be long distance for a while longer, he said, but it would all be worth it in the end. I was confused, and a knot of anxiety tightened in my stomach. The physical distance between us was about to become a chasm, and the emotional distance was already growing. He was physically pulling away, and the man who had once felt so close was becoming an enigma. But I loved him, and my love was intertwined with a deep-seated belief in his goodness. I trusted him. I chose to believe that his intentions were pure, that this was just a difficult chapter in our story, not the beginning of the end. So I stayed patient. I swallowed my doubts and poured my energy into making the long-distance relationship work. I sent care packages filled with his favorite snacks and little reminders of me. I made myself available whenever he had a spare moment to talk, adjusting my schedule to accommodate the time difference and his erratic work hours. I clung to the promises he had made, the future he had so vividly described. We had a future together, I told myself over and over, a mantra to quiet the rising tide of unease. He had never mentioned being married before, not even in passing. He had spoken of past relationships, of heartbreak and lessons learned, but the word wife had never crossed his lips. Our relationship felt deeply personal, a sacred space where we shared our truest selves. It felt sincere. The way he looked at me during our video calls, the way his voice softened when he said my name, the way he shared his fears and aspirations, it all felt real. I had no reason to believe that the entire foundation of our connection was built on a lie. I was living in a reality he had carefully constructed for me, a world where he was single, available, and wholly mine. The truth, however, was a ticking time bomb, waiting to detonate and shatter the illusion I was so desperately holding onto. And when it finally did, the explosion was more devastating than anything I could have ever imagined. The clues were there, scattered like breadcrumbs in the digital forest of our relationship, but I was too blinded by love to see them for what they were. The first significant crack in the facade appeared a few months ago on his Discord server. He was an avid gamer, and his server was a bustling hub of activity, a virtual clubhouse where he and his friends gathered to play, chat, and hang out. I was a part of it, a welcome guest in his online world. I enjoyed listening to the lively banter, the inside jokes, and the easy camaraderie he shared with his friends. It made me feel closer to him, a part of his life beyond our one-on-one conversations. But then, a new user started to appear more frequently in the voice channels, someone with a username that seemed vaguely familiar, though I couldn't place it. Her online persona was cheerful and bubbly, and she seemed to have a long-standing rapport with his closest friends. There was an ease to their interactions, a shared history that I wasn't privy to. I didn't think much of it at first. It was his server, after all, and he had a right to have friends I didn't know. But there was something about her presence that pricked at my intuition. A quiet alarm bell started to ring in the back of my mind, a faint but persistent hum of wrongness. My curiosity piqued. I did a little digging, scrolling back through old chat logs and member lists. And that's when I found it. A series of old photos and messages from before 2022, a digital ghost of a life he had never mentioned. The photos showed him with a woman, their arms wrapped around each other, their faces alight with genuine affection. The messages were filled with terms of endearment and inside jokes, a clear testament to a deep and intimate bond. Her username in those old messages was the same as the new user who had recently become a regular on the server, Jelly. The name he had mentioned once, in a fleeting and dismissive tone, as his ex-wife. The pieces started to click into place, forming a picture I didn't want to see. The woman on his Discord server, the one he was now spending so much time with, was not just a friend. She was his ex-wife. The same ex-wife he had claimed he hadn't spoken to in over 2 years. The same ex-wife he had assured me was nothing more than a distant memory. I confronted him, my voice trembling with a mixture of confusion and hurt. I told him what I had found, the old photos, the affectionate messages, the undeniable evidence that he had lied to me. He was calm, almost too calm. He didn't deny that Jelly was his ex-wife. But he spun a new story, a carefully crafted narrative designed to soothe my fears and placate my suspicions. He told me that they had recently reconnected, that they were trying to be friends. He insisted that their marriage was ancient history, a closed chapter in his life. He said they were simply on friendly terms and there was nothing more to it. I wanted to believe him. Oh, how I wanted to believe him. The thought of him lying to me on such a fundamental level was too painful to contemplate. So, I chose to trust his explanation. I pushed my doubts aside and tried to accept his version of reality. I told myself that it was a good thing that he could be friends with his ex, that it showed maturity and emotional intelligence. I even saw them hanging out together on his Discord server occasionally, their voices intermingling in the cheerful cacophony of online gaming. I dismissed it, telling myself, they're just friends. I was clinging to the hope that my initial judgment of him had been correct, that he was the good, honest man I had fallen in love with. But the truth has a way of clawing its way to the surface, no matter how deeply it's buried. And the next revelation would be the one to finally shatter my carefully constructed denial. My lingering suspicions gnawed at me, a persistent ache in my gut that I couldn't ignore. The "they're just friends" mantra was starting to wear thin, and the image of them laughing together on Discord felt less like a sign of mature coexistence and more like a scene from a life I was being deliberately excluded from. I started to do some more digging, not out of a desire to be a detective, but out of a desperate need for the truth. I felt like I was losing my mind, caught in a fog of his reassurances and my own mounting anxieties. I needed something concrete, something undeniable that would either confirm my fears or put them to rest once and for all. I stumbled upon a public records website, a place where the unvarnished facts of people's lives are laid bare for all to see. With a trembling hand, I typed in his name and the state of Arizona. And there it was, in black and white, a legal document that felt like a punch to the gut. It showed that he had community property rights with survivorship with Jelly. For those unfamiliar with legal jargon, it essentially meant that they owned property together, and if one of them died, the other would automatically inherit it. It was a document that spoke of a shared life, a legal and financial entanglement that went far beyond the realm of just friends. But the most damning detail was the date on the document. It was from 2023, a year after he claimed they had divorced, and a year before he had even entered my life. The implications were staggering. It appeared he had remarried the same woman he had divorced, and he had done it all while he was still in a relationship with me. The man who had told me marriage was stupid, a relic of a bygone era, had secretly gotten remarried to his ex-wife. The man who had spoken of a future with me was already legally bound to someone else. I confronted him again, this time with the irrefutable evidence in my hand. I sent him a screenshot of the document, my heart pounding in my chest as I waited for his response. I expected a confession, an apology, some semblance of remorse for the monumental deception he had perpetrated. Instead, he doubled down on the lies. He told me the document was incorrect, a clerical error. He said he just needed her signature for something, a flimsy excuse that made no sense in the context of a community property agreement. His denial was so blatant, so audacious, that it left me breathless. He was looking me in the eye, virtually speaking, and telling me not to believe what I was seeing. The full timeline of his deceit started to crystallize in my mind. He was married to Jelly for 7 years. They divorced in 2022. He then remarried her in 2023. And in 2024, while he was a married man, he pursued a relationship with me, pretending to be single, available, and ready to build a future. The sheer audacity of it was almost too much to comprehend. I remembered a Facebook post of Jelly, that I had seen last year, before I knew who she was, before I had any reason to be suspicious. She didn't use Facebook much anymore, but this one post had stuck with me. It was from just a few months after their 2022 divorce. She had written, "I'm happy that I had an opportunity to live and love fullest with my best friend." At the time, I had seen that post and thought that my ex must have been a good man, a trustworthy and loving partner, someone worth believing in. I had seen it as a testament to his character, a sign that he was capable of deep and meaningful love. Now, that same post felt like a cruel joke, a twisted piece of dramatic irony in the tragic play of my life. I had trusted him so deeply. I had wanted to believe that he was being honest with me, that our connection was as real and special as it felt. I had built a castle of dreams on a foundation of lies, and now it was all crumbling around me. I never imagined that he could simply walk away without a word, that he could discard me and our relationship as if it meant nothing. But that was exactly what he was about to do. The final act of his betrayal was as swift as it was brutal. The silence that followed my final confrontation was deafening. The man who had once filled my days with his voice, his laughter, and his promises was now a ghost in the machine. I was left in a state of suspended animation, my mind replaying our conversations, searching for clues I had missed, for red flags I had ignored. The pain was a physical thing, a heavy weight in my chest that made it hard to breathe. I felt like a fool, naive and gullible for having believed his lies. But more than that, I felt a profound sense of loss, not just for the man I thought he was, but for the future I had so vividly imagined with him. I was grieving a life that had never existed outside of my own mind. In a last-ditch effort to find some sort of closure, to understand the why behind his betrayal, I sent him a long and heartbroken message. I poured out my feelings, my confusion, my sadness, my anger. I laid my soul bare, hoping for a response that would offer some sort of explanation, some shred of remorse, some acknowledgement of the pain he had caused. His reply came moments later, a single sentence that cut me deeper than any insult could have. "Well, thank you," that was it. No apology, no explanation, no attempt to justify his actions, just a cold, dismissive acknowledgement of my pain. It was a slap in the face, a final, definitive statement that my feelings were irrelevant, that I was nothing more than a minor inconvenience he was now swatting away. And then he was gone. He blocked me on every platform. Discord, our primary mode of communication, where we had spent countless hours talking and laughing. The messaging app where we had exchanged thousands of texts, sharing the intimate details of our daily lives. Every digital doorway to him was slammed shut in my face. There was no final conversation, no opportunity to ask the questions that were screaming in my head. There was no confrontation, no emotional showdown, no chance for me to tell him to his face how much he had hurt me. Just silence. A vast, empty, echoing silence. That was how our relationship ended. Not with a bang, but with a whimper. Not with a sense of closure, but with a total and complete emotional dismissal. The cruelty of it was breathtaking. He had not only lied to me, not only cheated on me, but he had also denied me the basic human decency of a proper ending. He had simply erased me from his life, as if I had never existed. And the most painful part of it all was that I had believed in him. I had believed in his goodness, in his sincerity, in his love. I had believed that he was my person, my partner in crime, my future. He had told me that marriage was stupid, a meaningless piece of paper. But in the same breath, he had dangled it in front of me as a long-term goal, a possibility for us. He had played on my hopes and my dreams, all the while knowing that he was already married to someone else. I was a pawn in a game I didn't even know I was playing. And now I was left to pick up the shattered pieces of my heart, alone in the silence he had left behind. The aftermath of his disappearance has been a long and arduous journey through a labyrinth of pain, confusion, and unanswered questions. The silence he left behind is a constant companion, a stark reminder of the void he created in my life. I find myself replaying events, scrutinizing every memory, every conversation, searching for the signs I must have missed. And I realize now that they were there, hidden in plain sight, but I was too blinded by love and trust to see them. I remember one evening last year, when I was still in the blissful ignorance of our supposed exclusivity. I had gone to visit him, a rare and precious opportunity for us to be together in person. As I was leaving his place, I saw a woman waiting outside, her face partially obscured by the shadows. I didn't think much of it at the time. I assumed it was a neighbor or perhaps a friend of his roommates. But now, with the chilling clarity of hindsight, I believe it was Jelly. I believe she was waiting for me to leave, a silent and complicit partner in his deception. I also recall a fleeting glimpse of a message on his phone, a message from her that mentioned my name. I couldn't make out the context, and when I asked him about it, he brushed it off with a casual and dismissive wave of his hand. I chose to believe him, to trust his explanation, because the alternative was too painful to contemplate. But now, I can't help but wonder, did she know about me? Did she know that her husband, the man she had just remarried, was leading a double life? And if she did know, did she allow it? Was I an unspoken agreement between them, a temporary diversion that she was willing to tolerate? The thought is a venomous one, and it haunts my waking hours and my dreams. It's one thing to be deceived by one person, but to be a pawn in a game orchestrated by two is a level of betrayal that I am still struggling to comprehend. What hurts the most is the image of them now, living their lives as if nothing ever happened. I imagine them in Arizona, at the same military base where they both work, a picture of domestic bliss. I can almost hear their laughter, the same cheerful and lively banter that I used to enjoy on his Discord server. They are probably playing games together, sharing inside jokes, and living happily ever after, their perfect life built on the ruins of my heart. The man who threw me away, who discarded me like a piece of trash, is now a devoted partner to someone else. He is trusted by his friends, respected in his social circle, a pillar of his community. The photos and messages I saw on Discord from before 2022, the ones that showed their real affection, are now their present-day reality. They have rebuilt their life together, and I am just a ghost of a memory, a secret that they will likely never speak of. I am trying to come to terms with the fact that the man who abandoned me, who showed me such a profound and heartless cruelty, might be her most trusted friend, her right one. It's a paradox that my mind can't seem to reconcile. How can someone who is capable of such deception and cruelty also be seen as loving, trustworthy, and precious in someone else's life? It's a strange and unsettling thought that Jelly and his friends, the people who know him best, are likely unaware of this side of him. They see the charming, funny, and loyal friend, the devoted husband. They don't see the man who can look someone in the eye and lie without flinching, the man who can build a relationship on a foundation of deceit and then walk away without a backward glance. They will continue to live their lives, blissfully unaware of the wreckage he left in his wake. And that, in a weird and twisted way, is one of the most painful parts of this whole experience. This has been one of the most confusing and painful experiences of my entire life. I feel like I'm stuck in a loop, replaying the events over and over again, trying to make sense of something that is fundamentally senseless. I know that Jelly's only contact information was her Discord account, and I was blocked from his server, so there was no way for me to reach out to her, to ask her the questions that are burning a hole in my soul. And I know it's silly that I didn't try to contact her earlier when I first had my suspicions, but I was scared. I was scared of the truth, scared of what I might find out. And now it's too late. I've posted a similar story on another subreddit, a desperate attempt to get my story out, to find some sort of validation, to know that I'm not crazy, that what he did was wrong. I'm just so stressed out, and I just wanted to get it all out, to put it into words, to try and find some sort of catharsis in the telling of it. If you've made it this far, I'd love to hear from you what moment in your life made you see someone for who they truly were. Drop your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to Reddit Whispers, where the real stories get told.